don't figure where you at. I get that. You should pray for the feeling, I don't miss that. I was stuck for a while, I'll admit it. The same damn thing that you feeling, man, I get it, but
Yo, I have a confession to make. A few weeks ago, I made a video on a desk setup that took me almost 12 months to slowly put together, but almost immediately after that, I had to throw everything into cardboard boxes because I was in the process of moving. Since then, I've had a bit more time to get settled into my new place, and although it's a space that is a bit smaller than what I was used to, I decided to make the most of it by taking some of the best ideas from my previous setup and incorporating some new ideas. The idea is that this is a room designed for a bit of everything, from work and studies to art and entertainment. But today I specifically want to focus on the desk setup aspect of this room, i.e. the workspace. I think it's very important to make your workspace an environment that you actually want to be in because it's conducive to actually getting you to sit down and do the stuff that you want to do. And if you really think about it, it's also a space that you are probably going to be spending a lot of time in, both work-wise and to an extent relaxation-wise. So why not make it yours? So hopefully in this video, you'll get some inspiration and ideas for your own space. With all that being said, let's get into the 2025 setup. Alright, starting off with the beating heart of my workspace. This is a custom PC built just over 3 years ago that I've since kitted out with some foil stickers and is set up for both gaming and video editing. Since getting it, I've also made some storage upgrades just because video and video game files, especially nowadays, just constantly seem to get bigger and bigger. Moving up top, everything sits on an old panel office desk we've had since I was young, and even to this day, it's holding up perfectly. Starting over on the left hand corner, we've got a pair of Polaroid noise cancelling headphones. I am consistently surprised by the audio quality that it delivers, and the noise cancelling aspect of it is particularly useful in this room as I do sometimes have to compete with quite a bit of noise coming from outside the window. Moving on over to the middle, I've got a black Forks leather desk mat that I used to protect the underlying desk surface, and as a bonus, the dark color contrasts nicely with the light wood finish of the desk. Sitting atop it, I have a Logitech gaming keyboard which I configured to have a simple black and white aesthetic, and the keyboard itself mimics the properties of a mechanical keyboard, so it's quite satisfying to type on, plus the little wrist support along the bottom is surprisingly useful. Speaking of wrists, in hopes of helping to protect mine, we have the Logitech Lift, the slightly more budget-friendly vertical mouse that I honestly think does a fantastic job. I obviously went for the graphite color because it matches the aesthetic, but I generally would recommend going for dark gray or black mouses, as anything that you are constantly going to be putting your hands on is just going to discolor over time. Attached over on the side, I have an adjustable microphone stand, which then in turn holds a Rode NT USB mini microphone, an awesome mic that I use for everything from content creation to Discord calls to gaming. They're actually not that hard to find secondhand as well if you're looking for a really well-made and budget-friendly microphone. Slowly moving further back, I've got a slate grey tile coaster which supports one of my favorite gifts ever, a Pokeball Le Creuset coffee mug. This has quickly become my new daily driver for my morning cup of coffee before I leave for work every day, and there's just something really special about getting to add a little bit of fun and nostalgia into my day-to-day routine now all these years later as an adult. Off in the corner, I've got my trusty lamp that provides the majority of the nighttime ambience after hours, but during the day essentially just acts as a nice little set piece which accents nicely with the Atlas globe I keep on the desk as well. This particular globe adds a perfect vintage academic feel to the setup and also acts as a reminder for me of what I'm working towards. Following a trip to the United States last year, I've been especially motivated to make international travel a much bigger priority for myself, especially since getting to know other overseas content creators. Over on the wall behind the globe, I've got my space themed calendar. I'm a big fan of physical calendars because each month you have to turn the page and it feels like a sort of reset, as well as a reminder that time is passing, so don't waste it. Well, on the topic of stuff on the wall, I also keep a little red post-it board for random things I come across that give me ideas, so this board is often changing. And then finally in the corner, I also have a framed artwork by my favorite artist who goes by the name of Lumichen. Now onto the centerpieces of this desk setup, a dual ultra-wide monitor setup held up by hydraulic monitor arms. Both are LG monitors, with the central one being a recent addition and the second vertically orientated one being my original monitor that I've had for almost 7 years now. I decided to rock the vertical second monitor setup in part because I think it's visually interesting, but mostly because it works surprisingly well with my workflow, especially because I've recently been doing a lot of writing, researching, and design related work. It allows me to essentially use the second monitor as one big notepad, which comes in handy when I want to juggle a bunch of different ideas at the same time. In my case, it's also useful for managing Discord calls on the side when I'm busy using the main monitor for something like video editing, which is primarily where this Logitech webcam comes in handy. Alongside this little ring light for late night co-working calls with other content creators, a little mantra I keep is that success is heavily dependent on work, luck, and community. So I try to hop on these calls whenever I can, because especially with something like content creation, it's very motivating and reassuring to hear from other creators and to see what everyone is up to. That being said, this is where the term workspace starts becoming a little bit more loose. Underneath the central monitor, I have a tiny stand that houses some of the more chill elements of this desk setup. First up, a pre-owned iPhone 12 Pro that has been my daily driver since my final year of university and has unexpectedly grown on me more than I expected. I've recently been experimenting with some custom vintage wallpaper designs to give it an extra level of personalization, but in terms of function, I've dumbed down my phone to just be used for messaging, music, and navigation. In terms of unwinding, we've got a Nintendo Switch Lite, which I got last year as a birthday gift, and ever since it has been the perfect excuse to explore some games that I never really checked out when I was younger, such as Persona 4 Golden, which I'm currently making my way through, and it is as weird as it is wonderful. On the theme of fun, I've always been a big car guy and recently picked up this Lego Lamborghini Countach, which not only was fun to put together, but the white retro aesthetic works really well with the rest of the setup. Finally, a white and orange GameSir Xbox inspired controller. I heard a lot of great things about GameSir controllers, and so far it's been living up to the hype with very responsive buttons and good tactile feedback, which is especially useful for more fast-paced video games like Rocket League. Last year, I really fell back in love with the storytelling power of well-crafted video games, and it's something I plan on exploring quite a bit more in 2025, so that was also part of the decision to invest in a slightly nicer controller. Finally, to end things off, we've got a leather brown office chair that's both comfy and practical. I'm generally not the biggest fan of full back chairs because it gives me too much freedom to slouch, but since chairs like these only support my lower back, it kind of forces me to sit upright. And with that, we've reached the end of my setup going into 2025. It's fun, it's functional, and as I mentioned before, it's a space that I like being in, which if you're going to be spending hours a day in front of a desk, you might as well make that setup truly yours. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.